When I first began as vicar here at Trinity Church, I preached a sermon, and in that sermon I included a tale of a trip to take my son to visit colleges during a pandemic. This past week, because time flies at all that, I brought him back from college. Having graduated, I should add. He would want me to share that with you. I mean, I'm not saying it was heroics. He's got it mostly together. But it was a thing. It was a thing for us. And as a family, we wanted this journey to have a little bit of weight. And my son is also a jazz studies double bass major. So bringing him home did not involve air travel. He had an instrument that needed to arrive. So we took a car, and then we took another car, and the Bird family decided we would caravan for 3 days across our great nation to get from outside of Dallas, Texas, back to New York City. It was a great idea on paper. I mean, his graduation was kind of amazing because instead of being 95 degrees in Texas, it was 72, and we thought, hey, we're winning. But on the drive up, that weather system that brought the 72 degrees decided to stick around and cause a little bit of trouble. We drove for 3 days straight in rain. Our route was designed to take us through states we had never seen. We drove north through Oklahoma and Indiana, caught a little bit of Illinois, crossed Missouri, and the first night we had planned to stay in St. Louis because we had never seen the Gateway Arch. We had never seen this amazing work of architecture, this sculpture and monument, this Eros Saarinen masterpiece, and since I'm married to an architect, it was a thing. We arrived late Monday night in St. Louis, Missouri. We were shot. We'd been in the car for 12 days. If you live in New York City, you don't do that very often. My endurance was pretty low. We sort of made our way into our hotel. We ate a quick meal, and then we were unconscious. We got up the next morning with big plans. We were going to get out early. We were going to go right to the base of the Gateway Arch, take in the marvel, and then drive the next of the way to some place east of Pittsburgh. So we got up early. We had our acts together. Luggage was packed. Cars were brought around. We got in them. Nothing fell out the back. We drove to the arch to see absolutely nothing. There was more fog in St. Louis than I can possibly explain to you. 25 feet away, we saw the bare hint that there might actually be something that we should see. Now, we have a sense of humor, and so recognizing the absurdity of it all, 4 birds broke out into great laughter, and everyone else stared at us like we were crazy. The readings for today in this 5th Sunday of Easter are about as foggy as that which obscured the Gateway Arch for my family. We find ourselves here on the 5th Sunday of Easter, having celebrated the resurrection, having made this march and done this crazy U-turn back into Holy Week, back into the Last Supper. It almost makes no sense. The fog is thick. And so I thought the thing that I might do for all of us today is to share the clarity that I have, which doesn't mean it's right. Don't get me wrong. But perhaps a useful lens into this thing that is a set of complicated readings. Today's 3 readings from Acts of the Apostles, from the Revelation to St. John the Divine, Psalm 148 and the Gospel of John are trying to clarify something for us in the midst of the fog of our lives and the fog that was prevalent in the story of Holy Week. And what it was trying to clarify for us is that new things have happened, that we are destined for continually new things, and those things are centered in the love of Christ. In the Acts of the Apostles, and I don't know if you were paying attention, but I drifted off somewhere in the middle, not because the reading wasn't excellent, it was excellent. But that story wanders a little bit, and it sort of names things but doesn't name things. In the Acts of the Apostles, we learn that Peter, not generally speaking the archetypical hero in the Gospels, Peter has figured something out. Something has been revealed to him, and that thing is that this gospel, this good news about the love of Jesus, is not meant just for an exclusive few, not just meant for the people of Israel, but meant for people outside of that faith tradition, meant for the Gentiles, that it was meant for all. And people were not happy to learn this. There's a little bit of argument going on there in the beginning of that reading. But it just doesn't change the fact that that revelation to Peter is true and good. The love of Jesus is for all people. All people. In the Revelation to St. John the Divine, and this is gets a little bit hairy because this is a reading we often hear at funerals. Thanks, Mother Yane, for giving me yet another wonderful choice of readings on a Sunday. This reading from the Revelation to St. John the Divine shows us a new thing. I mean, it literally says it. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. And we get this vision. We get this vision of the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, and it nestles in so that the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of this world are no longer separate. And in this new thing, this new heaven, this new earth, this unified body of love, the home of God will be among mortals. God will dwell with them as their God. They will be God's peoples, and God himself will be with them, wiping every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. And the one who was sitting on the throne then said, "See, I am making all things new." God's vision, God's intention, God's deepest desire, God's love will not be restricted to the former things which have passed away. All things have been made new. All people are included. All possibilities are on the table. And then we get to the gospel. I don't like to retread Holy Week and Easter season, but I feel obligated. We're at this moment in the Last Supper where Jesus has washed the feet of his disciples. Right? Peter had an issue with that. But this moment happened where Jesus humbled himself to wash the feet of his friends. We are at the same Last Supper with the same people, one of whom will betray Jesus. Judas had already gone out. The same Last Supper with Peter, who will deny Jesus 3 times. The same Last Supper with the disciples who scatter. Some don't even make it to the cross, and most of them are hiding away after Jesus' crucifixion. Jesus is sitting at this supper with these people to whom he refers as little children in the deepest, most loving sense. And he says, I give you a new commandment. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Now, for you Bible quiz show folks, this is not exactly treading new territory in that moment, right? When Jesus was quizzed, when Jesus was tested about what's the best commandment, what's the most important commandment, he brought together the summary of the law. You should love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength, and you should love your neighbor as yourself. He takes Deuteronomy 6, chapter 5, and Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. He gives us the summary of the law way back in the gospel. But today, in this reading, he says, I give you a new commandment. So what has changed? He even says it again, right? By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. We get a love for one another sandwich. And the substance in the middle is what's new. The amazing thing, this new thing, is when Jesus says this, just as I have loved you, just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. In that moment, we hear the echoes of Deuteronomy, we hear the echoes of Leviticus, we hear the echoes of all the things that Jesus has seen and done and taught and modeled and acted. And here is where it all comes to rest. Just as I have loved you. In that statement, we understand that everything is different. In that statement, we understand that everything has changed. In that moment, we understand why Peter has a revelation to say that God's love is for all people. We understand in that moment why a revelation came to St. John the Divine to help us understand that everything can be transformed by the incredible love of God in that moment. It is made specific, it is made real, it is made directional, it is made life-changing, it is made accessible so that we might do just that. Love one another as Jesus loved us. By the 2nd century, this whole loving people thing was getting a little spotty. In the 2nd century, Clement preached a sermon that said, hey folks, like we're serious when we say this. You need to love one another. In the 2nd century, Tertullian, Another writer reminded his followers that everyone is watching. Tertullian wrote, "Look how they love one another." Is there any wonder why the good news spread? I do sometimes think that the turmoil of the present time, and pick your present time, I sometimes think the turmoil of the present time presents such a fog that we lose sight of the depth and commitment of God's love for us in the person of Jesus Christ. I do wonder, in the fog of this present time, if we lose sight of the deliberately spoken commandment to love one another and what it means. And I would offer this: pick a time. Pick a time when you were down, pick a time when you were lost, pick a time when you were betrayed, pick a time when you were broken or battered. Pick a time when you messed up so badly that you thought it was the end. Pick a time and look for God. Look for when Jesus loved you through that time, that you might be here with us today. Pick a time, your own revelation of the new commandment. Revisit it in your heart, and then try to live it out. When we do that, Jesus is indeed glorified, and the world is ripe with hope. Amen.